The wine glass in my sister's hand trembled as she stood up at our grandmother's 80th birthday dinner. Every conversation in the room died. 42 family members turned to look at her, their faces curious and expectant. I was halfway through my chicken marsala when she pointed directly at me across the table. "I need everyone to know the truth about what she did to me," Vanessa said, her voice shaking with what seemed like genuine emotion. "My own sister sabotaged my entire career. Everything I worked for, everything I was supposed to become, she took it from me. She stole my future." The silence that followed was suffocating. I felt my mother's eyes burning into me from across the table. My father's fork clattered against his plate. My grandmother, the birthday girl, sat frozen with her champagne glass halfway to her lips. Uncle Thomas shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Aunt Patricia covered her mouth with her napkin. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. My brain was scrambling to understand what was happening. Vanessa was crying now, real tears streaming down her carefully made-up face. She looked around the room at each person, building her audience. My father's voice cut through the tension like a knife. "Isabelle, is it true?" Before I could form a single sentence of defense, Vanessa launched into a detailed list of accusations. Her voice grew stronger with each word, more confident, more righteous. She claimed I had applied to her dream graduate program under false pretenses. She said I had stolen her research ideas and presented them as my own. She accused me of sabotaging her job applications by spreading lies to potential employers. She knew exactly what career path I wanted. Vanessa continued, her voice rising. "We talked about it for years. And then she went behind my back and took every single opportunity that was meant for me. She used the connections our parents gave us and turned them against me." My mother's face had gone pale. She was staring at me like I was a stranger. My father's expression was harder to read, somewhere between disappointment and disbelief. Around the table, relatives I had known my entire life were whispering to each other, their eyes darting between Vanessa and me. "I have proof," Vanessa said, pulling out her phone. "I have emails, text messages, everything. She planned this for years." I finally found my voice. "That's not what happened. None of that is true." "Then explain it," my mother said coldly. Her tone made my stomach drop. She had already decided I was guilty. My father nodded slowly. "Yes, Isabelle. Explain yourself. Now." The dinner ended shortly after that. No one ate cake. No one sang happy birthday. My grandmother sat quietly while relatives gathered their things and left in uncomfortable silence. I tried to approach my parents, but my mother held up her hand. "Don't," she said. "Just don't. I think you should stay away from the house for a while, until we figure this out." "Figure what out?" I asked desperately. "She's lying. If you would just let me explain." "Your sister is devastated," my father said. "Look at her. Does she look like she's lying?" I looked across the room where Vanessa was surrounded by aunts and cousins, all of them comforting her while she sobbed into her hands. She looked completely broken. She looked like the victim of a terrible betrayal. And I looked like the villain who had betrayed her. The group chat started going silent within hours. The family text thread, where we usually shared memes and made plans, went completely dead. My messages asking to talk were left on read. Vanessa posted a vague story on social media that night. "Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hurt you the most. Trust is earned, not given." Within 2 days, the comments and shares multiplied. People I barely knew were offering their support to her. My name was never mentioned, but everyone who mattered knew exactly who she was talking about. I spent 3 days in my apartment scrolling through my phone, looking at years of communication between Vanessa and me. The evidence was all there, every conversation that proved her accusations were false. There were the emails where I had forwarded her job postings and encouraged her to apply. There were the text messages where I had offered to help her study for entrance exams. There were the screenshots of me cheering her on when she talked about her dreams. I found the messages where she had asked me to review her graduate school applications. I had given her detailed feedback, spent hours helping her improve her essays. She had thanked me profusely. There were no signs of sabotage, only support. I found the conversations where she had told me she was dropping classes because they were too hard, where she had admitted she missed important deadlines because she was too anxious to follow through. My finger hovered over the share button. I could post everything right now. I could defend myself publicly with proof that would dismantle her entire story. The truth was right there in black and white, time-stamped and undeniable. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the last thread of hope that my family would come to their senses without me having to wage war. Maybe it was the fear that, even with proof, they would find a way to blame me. I closed the app, without sending anything. The receipts stayed private. Instead of fighting back, I disappeared. I stopped checking family group chats. I stopped reaching out to my parents. I focused entirely on my work at the marketing firm where I had been employed for 3 years. My colleagues noticed the change in me. I came in earlier, stayed later, took on extra projects without being asked. "You okay?" my desk mate Alex asked one morning. "You've been pretty quiet lately." "Family stuff," I said, not wanting to elaborate. "Just working through some things." Meanwhile, back in the family echo chamber, my silence was apparently working against me. My aunt told me later that Vanessa had interpreted my withdrawal as an admission of guilt. If she was innocent, she would defend herself, Vanessa had apparently said. The fact that she's hiding tells you everything you need to know. The narrative was being written without me, and every day of silence added another line to her story. I was the villain who was too ashamed to face what she had done. I was the sister who destroyed her own family and then ran away from the consequences. My manager called me into her office on a Friday afternoon. "Isabelle, do you have a minute?" Amanda Patterson, the director of client relations, sat across from her desk with a folder in her hands. My heart started racing. Had somehow Vanessa's accusations reached my workplace? Had my professional reputation been damaged too? "Isabelle, we've been watching your performance over the past year," Amanda said. My stomach clenched. "Your project leadership on the Morrison account was exceptional. Your team consistently exceeds targets. We're impressed." I blinked, confused. "Thank you. We'd like to offer you a position in our leadership development track," she continued. "It's a 2-year program that includes rotations through different departments, management training, and mentorship from senior executives. It's the same track that typically leads to director-level positions." I stared at her, unable to process what I was hearing. This was the exact career path Vanessa had always talked about. This was the future she claimed I had stolen from her. Except I had earned it through my own work, and she had never even worked at this company. "There's one requirement," Amanda added. "The first rotation would be at our Boston office for 6 months. Are you willing to relocate temporarily?" My mind was spinning. Boston meant distance from my family, from the drama, from the accusations. It meant space to breathe and focus. It also meant running away, or at least that was how Vanessa would spin it. "Yes," I heard myself say. "I'll do it." I moved to Boston 3 weeks later. I told almost no one in my family. My mother's cold silence had continued, and I saw no point in sharing good news with people who had already decided I was guilty. I threw myself into the new role with everything I had. I attended every training session, volunteered for challenging assignments, and built relationships with colleagues across departments. In the evenings, I took online courses to earn additional certifications in digital marketing strategy and data analytics. I went to networking events and industry conferences. I read every business book I could find. I was rebuilding not just my career, but my entire sense of self-worth. Without my family's voices in my head telling me who I should be, I discovered who I actually was. Vanessa's social media posts continued. She shared inspirational quotes about overcoming betrayal. She posted pictures of herself at coffee shops with captions about finding herself again. She never mentioned me by name, but her friends and followers understood the subtext. Meanwhile, I posted nothing. My last social media update was from 4 months ago. Then one evening while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my Boston apartment, my phone buzzed with a message from Aunt Patricia. "We need to talk. Can I call you?" Aunt Patricia called within minutes of my response. Her voice sounded uncertain, careful. "Isabelle, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "Okay," I said, bracing myself. "Vanessa's story about what you did to her. She began slowly. Some things aren't adding up. She told us you sabotaged her graduate school application, but I remember her saying she decided not to apply because she wasn't ready. She said you stole her job opportunities, but I distinctly recall her telling me she turned down several interviews because she was too nervous. My heart started pounding. You remember that? I do. And now that I'm thinking back, there are other inconsistencies too. She blamed you for missing a networking event, but I was there that day. You weren't. She just didn't show up. Aunt Patricia paused. Do you have any way to prove what really happened? I thought about the emails and messages still saved on my phone. I have everything, I said quietly. Every conversation, every offer I made to help her, every time she chose not to follow through. I've had proof this whole time. Why didn't you show anyone? Because I hoped they would believe me without it. Because I didn't want to humiliate her publicly. Because I thought my family would give me the benefit of the doubt. My voice cracked slightly. I was wrong. Can you send me some of it? Just enough so I can see for myself. She sounded almost apologetic. I promise I won't share it with anyone until we talk again. I sent her 3 key email chains and a handful of text message screenshots. The evidence was undeniable. Aunt Patricia called me back 2 hours later. She sounded shaken. Isabelle, I had no idea. These messages show you trying to help her over and over. Why would she lie about all of this? I don't know, I said honestly. I've been asking myself that question for months. What do you want me to do with this information? I thought carefully before responding. Nothing yet. Don't tell anyone. I need to think about how to handle this. Are you sure? Your parents should see this. The whole family should know the truth. They should, I agreed. But not like this. Not through leaked screenshots and whispered conversations. If I'm going to clear my name, it needs to be done right. Aunt Patricia promised to keep everything confidential. But 2 days later, Vanessa posted a long announcement on social media that made my blood run cold. Exciting news, she had written. After a long journey of healing and growth, I'm about to land my dream position at a major marketing firm. Details coming soon, but I just want to thank everyone who supported me through the hardest year of my life. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you can rise again. The post had dozens of congratulatory comments, but I recognized the company name in the comments section where someone had asked for details. It was my company, and I knew for a fact they had rejected her application 2 years ago. I pulled up our HR records the next morning. Vanessa had indeed applied to our company in the past. According to the notes, she had been invited to a first-round interview, but never showed up. She was sent 2 follow-up emails asking to reschedule, both of which went unanswered. The application had been closed as candidate unresponsive. There was no current application from her in the system. There was no job offer. There was no dream position waiting for her. She was lying publicly about being hired at the company where I actually worked. The boldness of it was almost impressive. She was so deep into her fabricated narrative that she was now inventing job offers to prove she was overcoming the obstacles I had supposedly created. I sat at my desk staring at the screen, trying to understand her endgame. Did she think no one would verify her claims? Did she believe her own lies at this point? Or was this some kind of test to see if I would finally break my silence? Later that week, Amanda called me into her office again. Isabelle, I wanted to give you a heads up about something. Our company is hosting our annual anniversary gala next month. It's a big event where we celebrate milestones and recognize outstanding employees. We'd like you to be there. Of course, I said. I'd be honored. There's something else, she continued. We invite family members of featured employees to attend. I've sent invitations to your parents. I hope that's okay. My stomach dropped. My parents are coming? They RSVP'd yesterday. I thought you knew. I called Aunt Patricia immediately after leaving Amanda's office. Did you know about the company gala? Your mother mentioned it, she admitted. She was excited to see where you work. Isabelle, they still don't know you're working there in a leadership position. They think you're just a regular employee. Does Vanessa know they're going? She does. And she told them she's coming too. Aunt Patricia's voice dropped. She said she wants to see the place that rejected her and face her past. My mind was racing. Vanessa was planning to show up at my company's event, at the place where she had lied about receiving a job offer, where I had actually built the career she claimed I stole from her. This was either going to be the most humiliating night of my life or the moment where everything finally came to light. "What are you going to do?" Aunt Patricia asked. "I'm going to let it happen," I said. "I'm going to let her walk right into the truth." I spent the next 3 weeks preparing. Not preparing to defend myself or preparing evidence, just preparing to exist in the same room with my family for the first time in months. I bought a professional dress. I practiced my breathing exercises. I reminded myself that I had nothing to be ashamed of. The night of the gala arrived. I walked into the hotel ballroom where my company had rented the entire space. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Round tables covered in white linens filled the room. A stage was set up at the front with a podium and screen. Then I saw them. My parents standing near the entrance, dressed formally and looking around the room with impressed expressions. And beside them, wearing a tight smile and scanning the crowd, was Vanessa. I stayed on the opposite side of the room, talking with colleagues and trying to calm my nerves. My parents hadn't seen me yet. They were too busy admiring the venue and accepting champagne from passing servers. Vanessa looked confident, almost smug, like she was exactly where she belonged. "That's them, isn't it?" Alex said quietly beside me. I had told him a condensed version of the family situation. "Your parents and your sister." "That's them," I confirmed. "You ready for this?"
No.
"But it's happening anyway." Amanda took the stage as the lights dimmed slightly. She welcomed everyone and began her speech about the company's achievements over the past year. She talked about growth, innovation, and the talented individuals who made it all possible. My heart was pounding so hard I thought people could hear it. "Tonight, we're recognizing several employees who have demonstrated exceptional leadership," Amanda continued. "These individuals have gone above and beyond, showing initiative, creativity, and dedication. They represent the future of our company." She began calling names. Each person walked to the stage to receive recognition and say a few words. The audience applauded. My parents watched politely, probably wondering when dinner would be served. Vanessa checked her phone. Then Amanda said my name. Isabelle Montgomery, Director of Strategic Initiatives for our Northeast region. The spotlight found me across the room. The walk to that stage felt like it happened in slow motion and at lightning speed simultaneously. Every eye in the room was on me. I heard gasps from the direction where my parents stood. As I climbed the steps to the stage, I glanced toward them and saw my father's mouth hanging open in shock. My mother's hand was pressed against her chest. And Vanessa had gone completely white, her champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips. Amanda shook my hand and handed me a glass plaque with my name engraved on it. Isabelle joined our leadership development program 8 months ago and has already made remarkable contributions. Her innovative approach to client relations has increased retention by 18%. She's earned the respect of her colleagues and the trust of our executive team. We're lucky to have her. The audience applauded. I stepped up to the microphone, my prepared remarks suddenly feeling inadequate. I thanked Amanda, thanked my team, and kept my comments brief and professional. But the entire time, I could feel my family's eyes burning into me. When I walked off the stage, my parents intercepted me before I could return to my seat. My mother grabbed my arm. "Isabelle, what is going on? Director? Leadership program? Why didn't you tell us?" "You told me to stay away," I said quietly. "You believed I was guilty without hearing my side. So I built my career without you." Vanessa appeared beside them, her face flushed. "This doesn't make sense. You work here? You're in a leadership position?" "Yes," I said simply. "I earned it. But I applied here years ago. They rejected me because of you. You must have told them something." Several heads turned at her raised voice. My manager from my first year at the company, Trevor Hughes, had been standing nearby. He approached our group with a friendly smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Excuse me," I couldn't help but overhear. "I'm Trevor Hughes, Senior Operations Manager. Are you Isabelle's family?" My father shook his hand, automatically. Yes, we're her parents. And this is her sister. Wonderful. Isabelle is one of our most valued team members. Trevor's voice was pleasant but firm. She's been with us for over 3 years, working her way up from an entry-level analyst position. Every promotion she's received has been earned through exceptional performance. We're very proud of her. Vanessa's hands were shaking. I applied here 2 years ago. I had an interview scheduled. Did you? Trevor looked genuinely curious. That's interesting. I'm actually involved in our hiring process. Can I ask what happened with your application? You rejected me, Vanessa said, but her voice had lost its confidence. That's not quite accurate, Trevor said gently. If I'm remembering correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we invited you to interview, but you never showed up. We sent follow-up emails that went unanswered. Eventually, we assumed you were no longer interested. The color drained further from Vanessa's face. I was dealing with personal issues. Of course, that's completely understandable. Life happens. Trevor nodded sympathetically. But I want to be very clear about something. Isabelle had absolutely no involvement in that process. She was working in a completely different department at the time and had no influence over hiring decisions. My mother looked between Trevor and Vanessa, confusion written across her face. But Vanessa said Isabelle sabotaged her opportunities. I can only speak to what happened at our company, Trevor continued, his professional demeanor never wavering. But I can tell you with complete certainty that Isabelle has conducted herself with nothing but integrity and professionalism. In fact, she's known among staff for being supportive and encouraging to newer employees. Several people she mentored have since been promoted. Vanessa tried to interrupt. You don't understand what happened between us. You're right, I don't, Trevor agreed. But I do understand professional conduct and merit-based advancement. And in those areas, Isabelle has been exemplary. Around us, other colleagues were starting to notice the tension. Conversations nearby had stopped. People were watching discreetly while pretending not to. Vanessa seemed to realize this and tried to pull the conversation back under her control. This is all a misunderstanding, she said, forcing a smile. I'm just surprised to see my sister doing so well. We've had some miscommunication in our family, that's all. More than miscommunication, I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. You accused me of sabotaging your career at Grandma's birthday dinner. You told our entire family I stole your future. You've spent months letting them believe I'm the villain in your story. My father's expression shifted from confusion to something harder. Vanessa, is that true? Before she could answer, a woman's voice came from behind us. The question should be why she felt she needed to blame someone else. Professor Lauren Winters stood there holding a glass of wine, her gray hair pulled back in an elegant bun. I recognized her immediately. She had been Vanessa's academic advisor in college before Vanessa dropped out. She was also my current mentor through the company's leadership program. Dr. Winters? Vanessa's voice came out as a whisper. What are you doing here? I was invited as Isabelle's mentor, she said calmly. When I saw the Montgomery name on the guest list, I wondered if there might be a connection to a former student of mine. I didn't realize I'd be walking into a family reunion. My mother stepped forward. You know both of our daughters? I do. I advised Vanessa during her time at the university, and I've been mentoring Isabelle through her professional development program here. Dr. Winters turned to my parents with a gentle but firm expression. I feel compelled to share something, even though it's uncomfortable. Vanessa was a bright student with tremendous potential, but she struggled with follow-through and self-confidence. She would start strong in programs but withdraw when the work became challenging. That's not fair, Vanessa protested weakly. It's documented fact, Dr. Winters continued. You dropped 3 major courses in your final year. You missed the deadline to submit your honors thesis. You were invited to participate in a prestigious internship program that Isabelle helped arrange, actually, and you declined at the last minute. My father turned to Vanessa. You told us Isabelle was responsible for you not finishing your degree. I was dealing with anxiety, Vanessa said, tears forming in her eyes. She doesn't understand what that's like. Then you should have said that, My mother said, her voice breaking slightly. You should have told us you were struggling instead of blaming your sister. Someone from HR approached our group, drawn by the obvious tension. Catherine Rodriguez, the head of human resources, had apparently been briefed on the situation by Trevor. She carried a tablet and wore an expression of professional concern. I apologize for interrupting, Catherine said smoothly. But I think it might be helpful to clarify some information. We've been reviewing our records and I want to ensure accuracy. She turned to my parents. Your daughter Isabelle has been an outstanding employee. I have documentation of her promotions, performance reviews, and the recommendations from supervisors that led to her current position. Everything is merit-based and fully documented. She swiped through her tablet and turned it toward my parents. These are her evaluation scores over 3 years. Consistently excellent. These are the projects she led that resulted in client retention and revenue growth. And these are the testimonials from colleagues about her mentorship and leadership. My mother stared at the screen, her eyes scanning the information. My father read over her shoulder, his expression growing more pained with each line. Now, Catherine continued, turning to Vanessa, regarding your previous application to our company. I have those records as well. You were invited to interview on April 12th 2 years ago. You didn't attend, and you didn't respond to our follow-up communications. The position was filled by another candidate. At no point was Isabelle involved in or informed about your application. Vanessa was crying openly now, mascara running down her cheeks. You don't understand. Everyone always compared me to her. I couldn't live up to her. Everything I tried to do, she had already done better. That's not a reason to destroy her reputation, my father said, his voice heavy with disappointment. Dr. Winters spoke again, her tone softer now. Vanessa, I watched this pattern develop years ago. You have real talents and abilities, but you've spent so much energy being afraid of failing that you've convinced yourself you can't succeed. And when that fear became too much, you created a story where someone else was responsible for your struggles. I didn't mean for it to go this far, Vanessa sobbed. It started with one comment at dinner, and then everyone believed me, and I couldn't take it back without looking like a liar. So I kept going. I kept adding details to make it more believable. My mother sank into a nearby chair, her face in her hands. How could you do this to your own sister? To our family? Because she has everything I wanted, Vanessa said through her tears. She's successful and confident, and everyone respects her. And I'm just the sister who couldn't finish anything. I felt invisible next to her. The admission hung in the air. Around us, the gala continued with other guests keeping a respectful distance, but clearly aware that something significant was unfolding. Several of my colleagues stood nearby, ready to intervene if needed, but giving us space. My father looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. It was remorse mixed with shame. Isabelle, we didn't even give you a chance to defend yourself. We just believed her accusations without question. You chose sides before hearing both stories, I said quietly. You exiled me from my own family based on lies. We were wrong, my mother said, finally looking up at me with tears in her eyes. We were so completely wrong, and I don't know how to make this right. Aunt Patricia appeared from somewhere in the crowd. I tried to tell you something wasn't right, she said to my parents. I tried to point out the inconsistencies, but you didn't want to hear it. Other relatives began emerging from different parts of the room. Uncle Thomas, Aunt Melissa, cousins I hadn't seen in months. They had apparently all been invited by Amanda, who had connections to our extended family through some professional network. They had been watching the entire confrontation unfold. Vanessa, you told us Isabelle sabotaged your graduate school applications, Uncle Thomas said. But I remember you telling me you decided not to apply because you weren't ready. You said she spread rumors about you to employers, Cousin Brooke added. But when I asked which companies, you kept changing your story. You claimed she stole your research ideas, Aunt Melissa said quietly. But you dropped out of your program before completing any research. One by one, family members who had believed Vanessa's narrative began recounting the inconsistencies they had noticed but dismissed or excused. The story she had carefully constructed was falling apart from every angle, not just from my evidence but from their own memories once they actually examined them. Vanessa looked around at all of them, realizing she had no defense left. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I just wanted to matter. I wanted to be important to you all." My grandmother's voice cut through the group. "You are important to us, child. You always have been. But you've hurt your sister terribly, and you've damaged your own integrity in ways that will take years to repair." Vanessa turned to me, her makeup completely ruined, her carefully constructed image shattered. "Isabelle, please. I know I don't deserve it, but please help me. Help me explain to everyone that I made a mistake. Tell them you forgive me. Make this go away." Everyone in our family circle went silent, watching to see what I would do. The choice was entirely mine. I could be gracious and help her save face. I could be angry and let her suffer the full consequences. I could be diplomatic and split the difference. Every eye was on me, waiting. I thought about the months I had spent in exile, the silent group chats, the birthday dinner turned nightmare, the way my mother's eyes had looked through me like I was a stranger, the career I had built in the shadows while everyone believed I was a saboteur, the proof I had carried but never used, the loneliness of being guilty without a trial. "No," I said simply. "I won't help you lie." Vanessa's face crumpled. "Please, I'm your sister." "Exactly. I'm your sister. The sister you threw away to make yourself feel better. The sister whose reputation you destroyed because facing your own struggles was too hard." My voice was steady, not angry, just truthful. "I spent months being patient, hoping our family would see through your story. I had proof the whole time, but didn't use it because I didn't want to humiliate you publicly. But you kept lying. You kept building your victim narrative. And now you want me to help you maintain it." "I made a mistake," she pleaded. "You made a choice. Multiple choices, over months, while I stayed silent and gave you every chance to tell the truth." The ballroom felt like it was holding its breath. My parents stood frozen, watching the confrontation between their daughters. Other guests had stopped pretending not to notice and were openly watching now. This was the moment where everything would be decided. I took a deep breath. "I will tell you what I will do, Vanessa. I will give you the truth. All of it. Right here, right now, so everyone can finally hear both sides of this story." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the nearby presentation screen that was part of the gala setup. Amanda nodded her permission. Images appeared on the screen behind me. Email chains, text messages, calendar entries, all time-stamped, all authentic, all showing a very different story than the one Vanessa had told. This is the email where I forwarded Vanessa job postings at 3 different companies and encouraged her to apply, I narrated, scrolling through the evidence. This is the text thread where she asked me to review her graduate school essay, and I spent a week helping her revise it. These are the messages where I offered to practice interview questions with her. I kept scrolling. Here's the conversation where she told me she was dropping her advanced statistics course because it was too hard. Here's where she missed an important networking event and asked me to make an excuse for her. Here's where she told me she was too anxious to attend a job interview and asked me to call and cancel on her behalf. My father was staring at the screen with his mouth slightly open. My mother had tears streaming down her face. Relatives around us were reading the messages, seeing the evidence of support and encouragement rather than sabotage. "These messages show that I supported you," I said directly to Vanessa. "Over and over, I tried to help you. And when you struggled, I never judged you. I never told anyone. I kept your confidence. I protected your privacy." I lowered my phone and looked at my family, at the relatives who had believed I was capable of destroying my own sister. The truth is simple. Vanessa and I had different paths. Mine was more straightforward because I was ready for it. Hers was harder because she wasn't ready yet, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people need more time. Some people struggle with anxiety and self-doubt, and that's human. What's not okay is turning your struggle into someone else's crime. I turned back to Vanessa. "You could have told everyone you were dealing with mental health challenges. You could have admitted you needed more time to find your path. Our family would have understood and supported you. But instead, You created a villain so you could be a victim. And you chose me to play that role. My mother stood up, walked over to me, and wrapped her arms around me without saying a word. She just held me while she cried. My father joined her, his own eyes red. I am so sorry, my mother whispered against my shoulder. We should have believed you. We should have given you a chance. We should have been better parents. Aunt Patricia came next, then Uncle Thomas, then other relatives one by one. They apologized for their assumptions, for their silence, for choosing the easier narrative instead of seeking the truth. Some of them admitted they had questioned Vanessa's story, but didn't want to cause family drama. Some said they felt guilty now for not speaking up sooner. Dr. Winters approached Vanessa, who was sitting alone in a chair looking completely defeated. This can be a turning point for you, she said gently. If you're willing to do the real work. Not the performance, not the victim story, but the actual hard work of healing and growing. Vanessa looked up at her with swollen eyes. How do I come back from this? Slowly. Honestly. And without expecting anyone to rescue you or fix it for you. Dr. Winters glanced at me. Your sister doesn't owe you forgiveness or help. But she also doesn't seem interested in your destruction. That's a grace you don't deserve, but might learn from. The gala resumed eventually, though our family group remained clustered together, having quiet conversations and beginning the messy process of rebuilding what had been broken. My parents apologized again, more specifically this time, acknowledging each way they had failed me. They admitted they had favored the more dramatic narrative without considering the quieter truth. Several relatives approached me individually to share their regrets. Aunt Melissa told me she had defended me in private conversations but hadn't been brave enough to do it publicly. Cousin Brooke said she had wanted to reach out but was afraid of picking sides. Uncle Thomas admitted he should have questioned Vanessa's story more critically. The thing about being in a family, my grandmother said when she finally got me alone, is that we hurt each other sometimes, not out of malice but out of weakness. The question is whether we can heal afterward or whether the wounds become permanent. She squeezed my hand. I'm proud of how you handled yourself tonight. You were strong without being cruel. You told the truth without seeking revenge. I don't feel proud, I admitted. I feel exhausted. That's because healing is exhausting, she said. But it's still worth doing. Across the room, Vanessa sat with Dr. Winters and a couple of other family members. They were talking quietly, and for the first time all evening, Vanessa seemed to be actually listening instead of performing. She looked small and defeated, nothing like the confident accuser who had stood at Grandma's birthday dinner months ago. Part of me felt satisfaction at seeing her exposed, but a larger part just felt sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that she had felt so inadequate she had to destroy me to feel better about herself. Sad that our family had been so easily divided. What are you going to do now? Alex asked, appearing at my side with 2 glasses of champagne. I don't know yet, I admitted, taking one of the glasses. Probably nothing dramatic. Just keep building my life and see if they can rebuild theirs. 2 weeks after the gala, my parents invited me to lunch at a quiet restaurant near their home. They had asked to meet without Vanessa present, which told me this was about more than a single apology. Over salads and sandwiches neither of us really ate, they told me they had begun family therapy. Vanessa had agreed to attend individual counseling as well. She's finally being honest about her struggles with anxiety and depression, my mother said. Things she should have told us years ago but was too proud or too scared to admit. The therapist suggested we all need to work on communication and boundaries, my father added. We enabled Vanessa's avoidance behaviors, and we failed you by not investigating the truth. What does Vanessa say about all of this? I asked. She's ashamed, my mother said. She wants to apologize to you properly, but she understands if you're not ready to talk to her yet. I wasn't ready. Maybe I would be eventually, but the wounds were too fresh. The betrayal still hurt too much. I told my parents I needed time, and, to their credit, they didn't push. They accepted my boundaries without guilt-tripping or manipulation. We'll work on our relationship with you separately from whatever happens with you and Vanessa, my father promised. You're our daughter too, and we neglected that. We're going to do better. Over the following months, they kept that promise. My mother called weekly, sometimes just to chat, sometimes to apologize again in new ways as she realized new depths of how she had failed me. My father invited me to lunch regularly, carefully rebuilding trust through small, consistent actions. They asked about my work, my life in Boston, my plans for the future. They listened when I needed to express hurt or anger. They didn't make excuses. 8 months after the gala, I received a letter from Vanessa. Not an email or a text, but an actual handwritten letter delivered through the mail. In it, she didn't ask for forgiveness or make excuses. She simply acknowledged what she had done, explained that she was in therapy working on herself, and said she hoped someday we might be able to rebuild some kind of relationship as sisters. I understand if that never happens, she wrote. I destroyed your trust and your reputation, and those aren't things you're required to give back to me. But I want you to know that watching you succeed despite what I did has taught me more than any punishment could have. You didn't need revenge. You just needed to keep being yourself. And that's exactly what you did. I kept the letter but didn't respond immediately. Maybe I would eventually. Maybe we would find our way back to being sisters in some new, different way. Or maybe we wouldn't, and that would be okay too. I had learned I didn't need my family's validation to know my worth. I had built a career on my own merit. I had maintained my integrity under pressure. I had told the truth without seeking revenge. My name is Isabelle Montgomery. I'm 29 years old from Charlotte, North Carolina, and if you enjoyed this story of truth prevailing over lies, please subscribe to my channel for more fascinating real-life stories like this one. Today I'm a director at my company with a future I built myself, not one I stole. My family relationship is healing slowly and carefully. I'm respected in my field and trusted by my colleagues. Most importantly, I know who I am and what I'm capable of, regardless of what anyone else says about me. I didn't steal anyone's future. I built my own. And that's something no accusation, no lie, no family drama can ever take away from me. The truth always surfaces eventually. Sometimes it takes months. Sometimes it requires patience you didn't know you had. But it comes. And when it does, the people who matter will finally see you clearly. Not as a victim or a villain, but simply as yourself. That's the victory I was really fighting for all along.